trip to Europe by visiting Dicing's
listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Central Hudson reminds you, when you're doing yard work, safety matters. If you use a ladder, be aware of overhead electric lines, including the service wire that runs to your house. Even wooden ladders can conduct electricity with dangerous results. And be very careful if there are electric lines above or near a swimming pool, and you're working with skimmers, brooms, or other long-handled tools. Central Hudson wishes you a safe summer.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, my name is Jackie Lovezzo. I'm from Lake Katrine, and I support Kingston Community Radio because it is an invaluable resource to the community and its residents.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Good morning, Bill and Bill.
Bill squared.
Bill squared. And we're eagerly waiting for Fred Costello, who should be here any morning. Greg Chorvis is off today. So Bill McKenna, God, you haven't been in the studio in what? A year and a half.
When you guys moved in, I helped move in.
Oh, yes, you did.
I think that was.
Oh, man.
Oh, hey.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yes, thank you for helping us move in, and it's good to see you back in the studio.
Yeah, it's been a long time, like I say, but I'm happy to be back. And I did do the show from my office a couple of mornings, which was nice. Sat there, drank my coffee, and watched the deer come across the yard. But it is nice to be back in the station.
Well, good. So, it's good to see you.
Yes. So, Mayor, how are things up there in the village?
Very well. Busy summer.
Yeah.
It's probably been as crowded as I've seen it in a long time, especially, it's not just weekends anymore. It seems like almost every night,
The same thing in Woodstock we're experiencing. It seems to be 7 days a week now that the traffic is up.
Yeah, I think, a lot of it's people that were not getting out, people getting out, but I think I don't know, this year seems different. It just seems really, the restaurants slammed, and, especially I got Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and even Thursday nights are a big night now. And
right. How are the local businesses, the restaurants and whatnot, doing with help? I know in Woodstock, every once in a while we'll see on Facebook, so-and-so is going to be closed tomorrow, can't get any help.
There's some, I know, I don't want to really speak for them, but I know in general, there's some that have had trouble keeping up with help,
right.
And have had to adjust their hours for being open because of such,
right.
Which I don't understand. It seems to be the pattern across the board. Even with summer help, usually on a given summer, I'll place, between working for the village or just working for people I know, I'll help probably place 20, 30 kids in summer jobs. And
right.
This summer, I was actually recruiting kids. Usually I'm get to the point where I'm turning kids away because I can't find. I always try to find them a job with somebody.
Right.
But this year I wasn't inundated with kids calling me and asking if I knew of summer jobs, and I actually I ended up getting one lifeguard for the summer.
Right.
For the beach.
You don't do a summer camp, do you?
The town does.
The town, yeah.
The town does a summer rec camp. I'm not. I'm not sure how they made out. Mm-hmm. I know Greg, like a Cantine. Same thing. Greg, on a given summer, gets 30, 40 kids apply to work in the field this summer.
Wow.
He had to recruit to get summer help.
Wow. Okay.
Just like the same thing I did. I had, I usually get a summer help for the water department, summer help for the DPW. I literally had to go out and ask kids.
Right.
And, I was begging for the lifeguards. I got one, she's doing a great job, but I was also worried about her being at the beach by herself, so I actually hired another kid to be a maintenance guy for the beach.
Right.
Just so she had somebody down
Some
there with her.
backup there, yeah.
Right. So, and even that, I was like begging. I'm like, listen,
right.
Calling parents up, hey, your kid need a job, huh? And I think what it is with kids, I think because there's so many part-time jobs opening because of the adults who can't go back to work or choosing not to go back to work,
right.
that it's giving, because every kid I know is working.
Okay.
But it just seems like there was more jobs than there was kids this summer.
Right. We had a similar problem up in Woodstock. Usually we hire 25, 30 kids to do our summer camp program, and we had a hard time coming up with 8 or 9 of them.
Yeah.
We had to limit our camp down from 200 to 75 because of it.
I'm not sure, I don't know, I'm not sure how great the town made out with their summer rec program. I know it's up and running. Because actually a couple of kids that I recruited were trying to get to work for me had committed to work for Greg,
right.
or Sue Sussman in the summer rec program. So, but again, yeah, every kid I know, my kids, my daughter's friends, they all have jobs. Right. So it's not like the kids don't want to work; they're working.
Right.
But it just seems like
that's a good sign.
Yeah. It just seems like there's more jobs than there was kids this summer, and I think it's because there's a lot of, especially in the food industry, I think there's a lot of adults who chose not to go back to work or can't go back to work or for whatever reason, and I know a few restaurants have had trouble with help, but I don't know. It's different. It's a different time. It's
right.
I'm already recruiting lifeguards for next summer because I'm telling kids now, listen, get certified over the winter. I'll assist in helping you pay to get certified if you come back next summer.
Right.
It's tough to do. This poor one girl, she's working 50 hours a week.
And you need a handful of them. Didn't you tell me one time 7, 5 or 6?
Well, we've had as many as
7.
That over the
Okay.
years. We can get by with 3 or 4.
Okay.
This summer,
one is way under.
Way under. What is it? Usually 3 for the beach and 1 for the pool. Now this summer, I end up taking a chance. Well, nobody's listening, but no, the health department came. We were okay. Is that I end up? Our pool is an 18-inch pool at the playground. I thought it was kind of absurd that we had to have a fully certified lifeguard to be at that pool. And there's no way I wasn't opening it this summer, even though we didn't have lifeguard, because it gets huge demand from little kids. So I got 3 local daycare workers who are all certified in CPR.
Right.
And I said, the pool's yours. Make your own schedules. It's got to be open Monday through Saturday. We add an extra day, 10 to 6. Can you guys cover it? And they agreed to, because their daycare basically is off during the summer because kids are home with their parents. So it was good for them.
It's a perfect solution.
And, I took a chance, and the health department came and they were satisfied with their credentials. And I'm like, good, that's going forward. I'm not going to worry about getting certified lifeguards for an 18-inch kiddie pool.
Right.
As long as the people I have there are CPR certified, I think, it seems to be okay.
Right.
And
it's good. It's good that they looked at the rules and what they were trying to achieve and were flexible with it.
Well, I didn't really give them a choice. I did it. I took a chance, because there's no way I was not opening that pool. It's, those little kids and the thing is, it's usually the daycares that use it the most. They bring their kids up there to swim.
Right.
And I said, well, if they're going to bring their kids up there, why not utilize those women and give them a chance to make a little extra money? And
Right.
especially the ones who are off during the summer, and it worked out really well. So I'm very pleased with that. Optimally, I like to have 3 kids. I like to have 3 lifeguards at the beach so we could rotate them. 2 on, 1 off.
Right.
But
give them a break.
Fortunately, my new girl this summer, Ava, she's taken on the challenge and done a great job with it, and I'm very pleased with her. And
If there's no lifeguard, is the beach closed, or is it swim at your own risk then?
technically it's closed, which basically means swim at your own risk.
Right.
We had to close it one day last week because of the same thing Kingston Point Beach had. The test came back, for fecal or whatever.
Oh, so you're on the upside of the dam there, so the problem was coming from upstream.
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, come on. The health department comes the day after we have 19 straight days of rain. What do you think the water's going to test?
Yeah, so you got a tremendous amount of runoff all the way.
Seems to happen all the time, and that happened on Thursday. And I'm like, so I actually I didn't want it to be closer to the weekend, so Friday morning we came in, took our own test, and submitted it and paid for it, and got the clearance on Saturday to open the beach.
Okay.
Because they closed it on Thursday, said, okay, we'll be back on Monday to test it again. And I'm like, it's supposed to be a hot weekend, and I'm not closing the beach if I don't have to.
Right.
So you can go submit your own test, which we did.
Right.
And it came back Saturday morning. It was fine,
Okay.
which just goes to show you, because when people see that in the paper, beach closed, they're like, oh, the water's contaminated. That's
Right.
we had rain almost every day in the month of July.
Yeah.
I don't know why they choose to test. I mean, I guess maybe that's when you're supposed to test because the rain.
That's the
runoff.
worst case scenario.
Right. So, but I read in the paper last night that Kingston Point Beach is still closed.
I was going to ask. I thought I saw something about that.
Yeah. So, because when we closed the beach, we put signs up, and people still ignore the signs. And, on a hot day, what are you going to do? I'm not going to go tell somebody to get out of the water. I mean,
that drives me crazy about signs because I'm sure you are too, constantly inundated with a sign for this or a sign for that. Keep the dogs on the leash. Wear a mask. Do this, and people, by and large, ignore them anyway.
Ignore them. Handicap parking signs. That's
Ignore them.
That's one of my
speeding signs.
Speeding signs, but handicap park. That's one that really annoys me. And I have a situation right now on one of our streets, and one of the residents is handicapped, and she's like, "There's always a car parked there," and I'm like, notify the police. They've got, obviously the police can't be there all the time,
right?
And I said, well, next time you see a car there, send me a picture. So she did last night, and I sent it to the police. I mean, I don't mind people helping policing that.
Not at all. We have a woman up in Woodstock, Jackie Manganaro, who is a stickler for ADA compliance, and I say that in only the best way. And she's been working with the police chief up there to get the guys to write more tickets, and they've really stepped it up this year. And I think it's helped a lot because I'm seeing fewer non-handicapped stickered cars in those spots.
Well, it's fun. When it comes to tickets, you have the one side of the population who wants the police to write more tickets, and then the other side who complains when they write tickets.
Yes. I've been on the town board now for almost 20 years, and except for this handicapped issue where I suggest we might take a look at it, very careful to suggest police write more tickets or less tickets.
I keep my mouth shut on it. Listen, they do their job, and you don't want it to be unfriendly,
No.
And I know, like a couple weeks ago, one of our policemen, someone put on Facebook, they showed him putting a quarter in the meter for a person.
Right.
And they're like, wow, this is great, thank you, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, I had someone say, well, they always give me a ticket.
You can't win.
And I'm like, yeah, but maybe it's because you constantly abuse it.
Right. They see your car in there all the time, whereas
there's a reason why you have 70 outstanding tickets, because you constantly abuse it.
Right.
And...
You got to look at both sides of it.
And then they're like, well, we shouldn't have parking meters. Well, no, we should have parking meters. If you don't have parking meters, then people are just going to leave their cars, parked in front of businesses and stores all day long,
and you don't get that turnover.
Well, they don't have parking meters in Rhinebeck. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And always hear, well, this community doesn't have it. Okay, well, we do, and there's a reason for it. And then most people understand it, and they're like, okay, that makes sense.
Especially, and you're the same way. In Woodstock, we have one lot that we have an attendant to, the one closest to town, and we actually, first time in 30 years, we upped it from $5 to $10. And there was a little bit of a hoopla over it, but
for all day.
Yeah, all day. So what if you went down to New York City or Wellfleet or Provincetown up there, you'd pay far more than that.
Oh, exactly. And that's the funny thing. Like when out of towners, maybe city people get a ticket and they come in and pay for it. They'll come in and pay the ticket. They're like, how much is it? Well, it's if you pay it in the first 10 days, it's $10. That's it. Yeah.
It's a parking fee.
Yeah. I paid that for 2 hours to park in the city, and
right.
And I'm like, yeah, it's I think our rates are 25 cents a half hour.
Right. Okay.
And they're like $10. I had one person that constantly, I'm going to leave my car in the street all the time. I'll take a $10 ticket a day, $300 a month. It's cheaper than me
than
in the
a
city.
parking spot. Yeah.
It's like, all right, thanks for the income.
Well, and most of the people I've explained it to that have come, it's mostly residents, and we do give out a pass to the residents so they don't have to pay the $10. But there's also a lot right up the street, and I said,
Okay.
look,
Oh, a lot, yeah.
you'll have to walk a little further, but if you go up to the next lot, you're leaving a $10 spot open. That's revenue coming into the town from out of town, and it's been steady this year.
What I just recently did, the police chief and I went out and we purchased bags. They actually got delivered yesterday. And we're going to hold them for business owners.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if a business owner, we'll assign them out to business owners. So, like, for instance, maybe once a day, have to park in front of their place for an extended period of time, maybe for a delivery or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to allow them to, assign a bag out to them. They can have it. But if we find they're abusing it,
Right.
then we're going to take it away.
Right. That's a nice idea.
But if hey, on Tuesdays you're a big day and you're constantly in and out of your store and dropping stuff off,
Right.
and
We'll cut you some slack and help you out.
yeah. So we ordered 10 of those bags, and I'm going to leave it up to the police department to give them out,
Right,
accordingly. And I saw the other day we had a nice feedback from a resident who got it pulled over. You saw how we joined that Lights On program.
Yeah.
There was a resident last week, and he sent a really nice email. He got pulled over for no headlight, no tail light, and he said, "I'm sitting there in the car, figuring, and he knew okay, they're finally caught up to me. I'm gonna, it's been a horrible year, and, evidently, everything went well when he spoke to the police officer. The police officer, he goes, into my surprise, the police officer handed me a coupon to go get a voucher to go get my lights fixed and
Nice.
no ticket. And he's like, this made my day. I actually had tears in my eyes, and it was good to see that program working. The people don't understand that it's not about trying to ruin people's days.
Yeah.
And police, that's a tough job. I mean,
Oh, is it ever?
using that discretion. I probably if I was a police officer, I'd be like such a sap.
Right.
But I did the Lights On program. I'm sure there's been other instances where they gave him out, but this guy actually went out on Facebook and made a nice compliment to the police department for doing it, and how appreciative he was for the opportunity, and it was nice to see. That's the
Right.
point of the program.
It's interesting. I was sitting at home last night, and I started to just scroll through Facebook for a minute to check out and see what was going on. And there was a big posting. Somebody was concerned that one of our local, I don't want to say street person, but colorful characters had two police officers coming up on him. And oh my God, I hope he's okay, and I hope the police treat him well. Police know him by first name. And he had a minor altercation with another colorful character, and the
You
police.
had them too, huh?
Oh yeah, actually, funny.
You have more than we do.
Yeah, but funny enough, I happened to be down in your village one Sunday morning, and there was one of my street colorful characters riding down the middle of your road. So they go back and forth.
Yeah. No, but you know what? And listen, we have them too, and I know them all by first name. There's a couple that I could do without.
Yes, we all have those.
But they're not. And those are the ones that are just, I guess you say, transient. They showed up for a period of time. We have our colorful ones that are born and raised here and been there their whole life. Everybody knows them.
But your officers, like my officers, know who's who, and they know how to treat them.
And the majority of them don't bother. And
Right.
they just. I mean, my one guy, Eddie. He sits on the corner every day and talks to people when they go by. And every morning when I walk by him, he says, "Good morning, ugly," and I said, "You're even uglier." And I buy him a coffee and I leave, and he's like, "See you later, ugly." I said, "See, get a haircut, Ed."
Right.
And we have that banter, and I love that.
Right.
I mean, I've seen him around Sergey since I was a kid, and he doesn't bother anybody. He just does his own thing.
We have one jogger, John, and John is great for sweeping the streets, sweeping the sidewalks, sweeping the
great.
village green. We had a big pothole in the middle of Tinker Street, which is Route 212, State Road, and I called up and I said, "Look, guys, you got to get some blacktop in that. We're going to lose a Volkswagen Bug." They come up, they couldn't find it. I said, "I'll meet you there tomorrow. I'll show you where it is." Well, John had filled the hole with dirt and packed it so that I couldn't
Wow,
find
that's pretty good.
It took me about 5 minutes, and I knew exactly where it was. So I said, John's doing your job. We're going to give him a state.
You can send him down to Sargady's if you want. We'll take him.
Oh, you got to take a couple more, though. It's a package deal.
Well, one thing I got upset, last year during COVID, we had set up a couple outdoor dining areas, picnic areas, which went over really well. We did one at the resort, and then on the weekends we were doing one down in the municipal lot by Maribel's. So this summer I said, the resort one worked out really well. We had lights up, we had about 10 tables, we put a porta potty there. Reese Group's a great partner. They do anything we want to do. And I noticed this summer, it was just, unfortunately, the transients were the only ones hanging out there. And because they're the ones hanging out there, other people weren't using
We're not
it.
hanging out there.
And so we had to take it down for the car show. And then after the car show, talking to a couple of business owners, we decided not to put it back up.
Right.
Because it was attracting the wrong element.
Right.
And, and again, I don't have an issue with the transients, but they literally a couple of them, the more unsavory ones, were sitting there all day and getting drunk.
Right.
And basically passing out on the table.
You don't need that.
So we did away with it, but I went and put 3 tables back, just to have 3 tables there, but we didn't put the lights up, we didn't partition it off, just 3 random tables around the edge of the lot. And sure enough, the day after we do that, I go down there one night and the tables are full with a baseball team. And then the next night it's full with a softball team. And I'm like, sure, now you come after.
Right.
But it was, it was fine, and I'm glad they utilized it, but it was just unfortunate,
It's a bad timing.
We had to go in every morning. There were empty beer cans. Supposedly there were some hypodermic needles found. You certainly don't want that. So we're getting rid of. We're getting rid of or already got rid of. I just made the call the other day to get the porta potty out of there because people were abusing that, unfortunately, and it's a shame. But
it's a big frustration. We have it in Woodstock too. We've got the Big and Little Deep, where we had that open a couple of years ago for swim. People would swim and whatnot, and it was getting trashed. Every weekend on a Monday morning. The guys were spending 4 or 5 hours cleaning up other people's garbage all over the woods. But we finally shut it down during the pandemic. We just couldn't deal with that, and now we have it open only to hiking and no swimming or anything like that. And folks are going in for an hour. They're not bringing in picnics and whatnot, and it's much better. But it's sad to see that you have to go to those lengths.
It just takes a few people to ruin it for everybody else. Yeah. That's the disappointing part of it. But we see that. Now's the thing too. I was having guys come in every Saturday to clean it up, and we were putting the time into it, and it's a shame that we couldn't keep it open because it was actually at night. It looked nice. We had the lights up, set up, and Bob Circonsano, and I think he's still going to do it. But like once a month, he'd have a band there on a Friday night, and people would sit at tables, and we could still do that.
Right.
But it just it was just, and I would, and there's I remember we had done a senior prom night, like a promenade where the kids could walk through town for senior prom. And my wife and a bunch of the other mothers and teachers, we decorated the village, restaurants were on it, and, the kids. So anyways, that was going to be their spot.
Right.
Like parents went and decorated it all up on a Friday night so the kids could go to different restaurants, get takeout, and go sit there and eat, and the restaurants had specials.
Each kid could go to their own restaurant of choosing. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, we had about 80 kids participate. They came to Kierstead House and got pictures taken. Then they walked through the village. Different restaurants had different specials, and they could make reservations or get takeout. It was called Promenade.
Right.
And it was nice, and Stuart, as usual, comes up with the ice cream for the kids and free ice cream and because they couldn't get their senior prom, Right. So and we had another prom later on, right after graduation, up at Rip Van Winkle Forum. But that particular night, though, we had my wife and a bunch of mothers went and decorated the whole picnic area up. 10 minutes later, I come by, and there's 3 of them sitting right in the middle table with their beers and drinking. And I walked over and said, "You got to go." "No, we don't." "Yeah, you do. It's prom night for the kids.
Right.
Can you leave? This is for the kids tonight.
Right.
Get out of here. I don't want to be mean, but get out."
Right.
And they wouldn't leave. I had to call the police on them. And it's like just trying to do something nice for the kids one night.
Can't win some days.
You got a phone call? Oh, it's Greg. Morning.
Good morning.
How we doing without you?
So I gather it takes me not showing up to get the head honcho, the big cheese from Woodstock, show up?
I know, Greg. I pulled in the parking lot, saw the truck, and I thought I was in the wrong spot. I thought I was in Woodstock. I thought I took a wrong turn.
Well, sorry I couldn't join you, gentlemen, but just way too much as you know, Mayor, we are hosting the American Legion State Baseball Championships, which started Saturday morning at 10. 4 games Saturday, 4 games Sunday, 4 games Monday, 3 games yesterday. And we got the championship starting at 10 a.m. this morning. But what I really wanted to share with our listeners, the Stallions clinched second seed last night with a win over Glens Falls. And for the very first time, we'll be hosting a playoff game here Saturday evening at 7:05.
Wow, congratulations.
We get a first round bye. So we're in the semifinals, and after the game, there will be quite a fireworks display.
Ooh,
very nice.
Keep in mind, also Saturday night, Upstate Films is doing their outdoor movie at the Calfop on Saturday night as well. So actually, but that's going to go in nice because if people at the Calfop watching a movie, they'll be able to see the fireworks as well.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will. The Calfop's a good spot to watch it from.
I might let them.
And hard to believe, but next Monday the ice arena opens, and that was the other piece of the puzzle this morning. Rob is doing ice painting. That requires the most personnel. He's got about 8 or 10 volunteers, but obviously has to supplement with our staff in here, and just the fact I'm short some summer help this year, I just couldn't get down there.
Well, we know you're busy. We don't know what Freddie's excuse is, but.
What's that?
We know you're busy, but we don't know what Freddie's excuse is. He's not here.
Now he's got some other issues, and he probably had to tend to them, and so. But it's good to see Bill's in the studio. First time in the studio, right?
This is the first time I've done a show from the studio. Yeah, the last time I was here, I was helping you guys move in.
Yeah.
So it's
you
good.
were doing all the work. You were doing all the work, from what I understand. I heard Sinagua was just serving as a traffic cop and holding the door.
He did a good job holding the door, though.
All righty, gentlemen. Have a good day.
All right, Greg. You too.
All right.
Bye.
All right, you want to read those events real quick before we go to break? Just the one for People's Place?
One for People's Place.
Yeah, actually, she just sent it to me this morning. I told her I'd get it
What
on.
about the other one? I tuned in. This one too?
You can read them. Yeah, have Bill read one and you read the other.
So I'll let you go first,
Please.
Bill.
All right. Christmas in July. Christmas in the season. It's a feeling. Here at People Place, we are always planning for Project Santa. We are honored to have helped thousands of families over the last 49 years make magical Christmas memories. In 2021, we continue this tradition and commitment to the children of Ulster County. Oh, sorry. There's the announcement. To donate, celebrating Santa, a Project Santa fundraiser. Donate online at peopleplace.org. Donate via phone 845-338-4030, or donate via Venmo at peopleplace NY, or you can drop off your mail donations to 17 St. James Street, Kingston. And let's see, below is the list of Santas. Stop by and see them on the roof of your People Place. Come by and cheer your Santa on. 8 a.m. Bob Miller. What day is this? It doesn't say what day, does it?
I think it's this Saturday, right?
Is it this Saturday? Oh, yes, this Saturday. So this Saturday. Okay, I'm sorry. It's kind of 8 a.m. Bob Miller from WBPM. At 8:30, Kevin Davenport, former owner of Heritage Energy. 9 o'clock, Laney Louise Dietz Stadium Diner. 9 o'clock, Adrian Martinez, Gosman Diner. Gosman Dietz Stadium Diner. 9:30, Craig Crump. 10 o'clock, Deb Marcus. 10:30, Tony Russo. 11 o'clock, Julie Colati. And 11:30, Tony Davis, Alderman, Ward 6, and history teacher at Miller Middle School. Sorry I messed that up, but go ahead.
You did fine.
You want to do this one after the break?
No, go ahead and read it.
Okay, so quickly, there is a call to honor. It's the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier replica will be in Kingston. It will take place on August 6th, 7th, and 8th, and it is put on and will take place at the VFW Post 1386, which is on the bypass in Kingston. Times are from 10 a.m. to 5 daily. On August 6th at noon, there'll be an opening celebration ceremony, which will include rifle salute and playing of taps. Admission is free, and this project is put on by the Kingston's Veterans Association. Sounds like an interesting event. So this is a replica of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, which holds the remains of unknown soldiers from World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and now the Vietnam War. So if you got some time on the 6th, 7th, or 8th, stop by.
All right, great. We're going to go to break, and we'll be back with Marge Gallagher.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Swimming pools are great for family fun, and Central Hudson wants you to play it safe. Never operate an electric appliance next to or in the pool. Be sure pool motors and filters are grounded. Have them installed by a professional and serviced by a licensed professional electrician. Be very careful if there are electric lines above or near a pool, especially if using long-handled cleaning tools. And if a storm is nearby, get out of the water. Your safety matters.
Hi, I'm Steve Thomas for Habitat for Humanity Restore. Habitat Restores are nonprofit home improvement stores and donation centers that sell new and gently used furniture, building materials, and appliances to the public at a fraction of the retail cost. The Ulster County Restore at 406 Route 28 in Kingston needs your donations. Call our hotline at 845-853-7499 to schedule your free pickup. And thanks.
Everyone is talking about healthcare these days. America spends twice that of other developed countries on our healthcare system, yet our health ranks near the bottom. How can we stop spending so much and getting so little? By shifting to a system that gives more patients access to strong primary care. Primary care can help make America healthy again. To learn more about the benefits of primary care, visit www.healthisprimary.org. This message is brought to you by America's Family Physicians.
Screening exams for breast, lung, or colorectal cancers are necessary to detect and treat disease at its earliest, most curable stage. But you may have some concerns and questions. Answer your questions and ease your fears by visiting radiologyinfo.org. In addition to information on screening and wellness, you'll find more than 200 descriptions of radiologic exams, procedures, and treatments to help you prepare. Get informed and be prepared. Visit radiologyinfo.org, produced by the Radiological Society of North America and the American College of Radiology.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by the First Savings Bank in Ulster County that still remains local to this day. Ulster Savings Bank, a community bank that's invested in local business, invested in community, invested in you. Ulster Savings Bank, your one-stop resource for everything local. Locations throughout the Hudson Valley and online at ulstersavings.com. Member FDIC.
Okay, we're back.
You know, it's been so long that I've been on off the air that I forgot that we didn't even introduce ourselves when we started this show, did we? Did he?
Yeah, the two, Bill Square, remember?
Bill Square, okay.
Bill Square.
So.
But you can introduce our next guest, Bill Square.
Yeah, so this is Bill McKenna, supervisor from Woodstock, joined by Bill Murphy, mayor from the Village of Saugerties, and we're here today with guest Marge Gallagher.
Good morning.
Our county comptroller.
Happy to be here with you guys today.
Marge, how are you?
I'm good. The numbers look good, so I'm good. Not the COVID numbers, but the financial numbers.
The financial numbers, yes, yeah. We're all doing much better than I think we thought we might be doing a year ago.
Very true, very true. I think, in fact, we have to be really careful with the ARP money because maybe we didn't need as much as is coming, and I know people don't want to say that, but it's true. Revenues were not really hurt that much, and expenses.
So do you think they're going to look for it back?
No, I don't. I just think we need to be smart about what we do with it. Invested in long-term things.
We got our first check. We got it last Thursday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the first check.
Thursday. Actually, ours hit the bank Thursday, too.
Yeah, and then the second one comes next year.
My bookkeeper came running in. What's this? What's this?
Yeah, we were like a month ago, so I'm surprised. The municipalities were behind the county a little bit. Interesting.
I think they had, that's the way they had planned to roll it out, yeah.
No, I mean, of course, I've had some board members with ideas. I'm like, listen, I'm not doing anything with it right now. I do, there's one improvement I need to make to my building, which is about 10 grand, and I'm like, we're gonna make sure that's legit to use it for that. And other than that, I'm like, let's just hold it until we have a need for it.
Right.
It's not like a shopping spree now,
I was on a call yesterday. I serve on Congressman Delgado's Small Business Advisory Committee, and there's a whole bunch of chamber folks, from his entire district on there, and they were talking about how in the other counties, they felt like there was really uninspiring ideas about how to use the money, and I kind of think that the plan that Ulster came up with is pretty good, and it really touches a lot of things that we surveyed the public, and I know the county executive's office did too, in 2 separate surveys, and people said exactly the same things, like opioids, housing, job creation, youth services, and so I feel like it is aligned with that, and going out to the public, I think, generated some ideas that maybe we wouldn't have thought about. So.
Yeah, for the village, we got 194. So we're getting 3.
It's not that much, right?
It's not like a major project I can do.
That's 194 you got the other day, or?
Yeah, 194. Right. I'll get 194 next.
So you're just under 400.
Right. You got to realize that could be one paving, or there's not a lot you can do with that as far as a big project.
Right.
So I'd rather over the next couple of years find some different little needs for it.
Let's map all the underground infrastructure in Saugerties. That's what I want to do, because my husband opened the street yesterday to fix water pipes, and they weren't where they were supposed to be. It was like, oh no.
It actually has. We did that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We did the GPS and did that, and it's all in. But it's not perfect.
It's not perfect. I know.
Well, we did do that. I think we got a grant for that a couple years ago, and did most of it, because prior to that, only Sal Cavallaro knew where everything was in the ground in Saugerties.
Right. You can't have it just in somebody's head. Yeah.
They actually called me because, like, Murph, the butterfly's in the way. I said, all right, I'll send the guys down. We'll take the butterfly out, because they didn't want to damage the butterfly.
Yeah.
So I saw that going on.
A lot of water. It's been. We tease my husband and say that he has like water karma. No matter where he is, it floods. It's like, and our son always is joking around like, "What did you do in your past life? Like, why is this happening?"
I drive by and I'm like this. Sometimes we've had a lot of conversations.
But we've had it in New Paltz too. We've been flooded multiple times. Oh yeah, we've had the entire bookstore in New Paltz flooded. There used to be like a health food store. Oh yeah, above us, and
maybe we ought to send them out west. They're in dire need.
True, we should send him to drought
the drought buster.
Seriously, the other day I saw him out in front, and I saw we had the little, and I'm like this at this, right. We don't see, and I'm like, then I heard he called Cliff, because I was talking about Cliff. I'm like, all right, he's got Cliff on it.
He's got Cliff on it, yeah, and it was Bob Gehring tearing up the street, and he does a great job.
And the thing is, I've had that with quite especially the rain we had in July. We've had a few incidents like that from people, and I felt bad the other day. A guy calls me, and and he's like, at first I said, first of all, I said, your yard pitches to the back. We've had 8 inches of rain in the last 19 days. I said, my backyard, I've not been able to cut for 2 weeks. Who do I call? Right. Well, that's not it, Murph. There's more to it than that. And I'm like, I don't think there is. You have a low spot in your yard.
Yeah.
Now, we did look into it, and there could be something that we might be able to do for him, and we're going to try it. But it's like, you get 8 inches of rain in 19 days. You're gonna. I know
Bishop be dealing with water.
I know, like at least a dozen people in Bishop Gates that got water in their basement never had water before.
Right, and that's the way it's going to be. So I think we all need to be thinking about how do we harden our infrastructure to deal with these huge events, right? Do we do bigger culverts? I know that after Irene, a lot of the road culverts out in the western part of the county, they had to go much bigger than what we expected, from the past.
Well, I talked to the state DOT, and they, obviously, especially in the village, that's a huge project. And, we, after those other storms, we went out and looked down to make sure they were all open and clear and clean. And, a majority of them were. Their bottom line answer is there's no current covert system
that can handle it.
That can handle these kind of storms.
Yeah.
Right. We just can't handle it.
And it's interesting. I'm still taking grief. We did Mill Hill Road 3 years ago, and that's a state road. We used Gozer money, federal money, to do it. And do their job for them. And the problem we had, so normally you would pitch the road to each side, to the gutter, to the curb. On the westbound side, we had a 2-foot water main for the city of Kingston, which they did not want us anywhere near. So there was no catch basins on that side. So we actually had to pitch it for 4 or 5 feet away from the curb on that side into like a mini swale with drains all the way down. And we get a heavy rain, and it's a river literally flooding down. Now, if you drive close enough to the curb, you actually can skirt it and not splash anybody. But most people don't want to get that close.
And knowing that, but I try to explain to people, give it 10 minutes, it's going to be gone.
And that's what I keep trying
That's
to.
why it's called flash flooding.
So, back before this project, we used to have 8-10 inches at the bottom of the hill, a puddle that would be there for 4 or 5 hours.
We don't have that anymore.
Now we don't have that. As soon as, literally within 5-10 minutes of the rain stopping, the road is clear.
Well, we went out, like, I can't touch the state roads, but like a few years ago, like when we were having those issues in front of Brian's shop on Main Street, and the state came out, but we have the same problem on Market Street. So we went out and we added 3 additional storm drains to Market Street, which is helping, but the bottom line is they're all still feeding into the same line, which still has the same amount of capacity.
Exactly.
So you're not going to solve it when you're getting 2 inches of rain an hour during a freak storm. No. It's just going to happen, and but yeah, my backyard, I mean, literally, I've been in my house 21 years. It's the wettest it's ever been in 20. It was. I mean, I couldn't mow it for 2 weeks. I literally had a lake, and my house is up on a hill. It slopes back, and the road behind me is above. I know why I get water in my backyard. I got a low spot. I brought in truckloads of dirt. Unless I want to raise my backyard 8 inches, I'm never going to get rid of that. Right.
Well, it just portends for the future. I remember seeing maps about 15 years ago that DEC had done that were, sort of climate change maps, and they showed the Hudson Valley is going to get a lot more water, and I think that's turning out to be very true. And I also think if we see, parts of the country in major drought, we may be relieved that we get water. We just have to figure out how to deal with it. Like, water is a good thing.
If I had to take one or the other,
right,
bring me the water.
My grass has never been this greeny in the July as it is right now. Like, usually by July, your grass is getting brown. Mine is like pristine green. And I'm a lawn freak, so I like when my grass is green. I'm not one of those people that I tried to cut my lawn short, wanted to burn, so I don't have to cut it anymore.
Right.
I'll cut my lawn twice a week.
Woodstock is host to the Kingston City Water Supply with Cooper Lake, and part of the issue there, what they're talking about, they're going to be doing they're actually in the process of doing work up there, but at some point, there's talk of raising the dikes and raising the dams, and they're going to prepare to do that because of all these intense storms that we're getting less frequently. This last month, 19 days of rain in a month is not been the average, though, going back the last few years. You get a big storm, and then it might be dry for 2 or 3 weeks, and you get another big storm. And by raising the dams, they'll be able to capture more of that water and hold over for when it's dry.
Do they have the same turbidity problems that the New York City watershed has? I don't really ever hear about Kingston dealing with turbidity.
Well, I think they deal with it, but I think, it's, now I'm only guessing here, but I would say that it's probably small enough setup that it's easy for them to manage it. So yes, I think they do deal with it. Cooper Lake's watershed is actually very, very small. Most of their water comes out of the stream on Mink Hollow, and they have a pipe from Mink Hollow over, and they can just close that down, wait it out a day or two, let the turbidity go down, and open it back up again.
Bill, I've been wanting to ask you about what's going on with housing in Woodstock. It seems like you guys have had some changes happening, and I just want to catch up on that. By the way, the New York State Association of Realtors data is out for June, and it shows a 33.5% increase year over year in price, no inventory. And other counties are hit even worse. Like Greene County has had unbelievable price growth, probably because all of us are moving up to Greene County.
Well, and that's what it is. It's a ripple effect.
And the other county that pops up as ridiculous is Tompkins County, which when I did in 2019, I did an analysis of Airbnbs just to see who had the most in the state per capita and per number of housing units. And Tompkins actually beat Ulster. In some ways, not in all ways. Yeah. So anyway, I'm just wondering.
I'd love to see that data sometime.
Yeah. No, I'll share that with you. What are you guys? What's happening in Woodstock? I know there's been a lot of activity.
So I think we were the first in the county to come up with an STR law to regulate short-term rentals 2 years ago. Yeah. So at the beginning of this year, when we passed it, we acknowledged some of it was an experiment, and we were trying things and. Some things had worked in other areas we were hopeful would work here. But we vowed to review the law within a year or two. Okay. So with the pandemic, that put us off a little bit, but we started to review it in January. In the meantime, though, public sentiment for some commercial projects in town kind of overboiled.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that led to a moratorium we just passed 2 weeks ago. The moratorium is on expansion, construction, or anything dealing with transient lodging, hotels, motels.
Okay.
We put STRs in there, but the reality is
How would you know?
we're at our cap though. So
Okay.
in effect, there are no more. That number is set at 285, 300 now. And the other thing we did is we said no conversion of residential space to commercial space. What we were seeing was some homes being torn down, particularly right in the center of town, and being converted to business uses.
Gotcha. And that just limits housing use more.
Exactly. So, and one thing, I know it's a dirty word to say, but I keep saying it, the moratorium, the whole point behind that is not to stop development. We need development. What we need to do is guide the developer to the position that we need, which is affordable housing, rentals, homes for purchase.
Yes.
And we did hire a planner. We've put together a committee. And so we've got 9 months to come up with some solutions.
Oh, cool. I sat in last night. Penrose, which is the developer that was chosen to develop the Golden Hill housing site, they did their first community meeting. It was a webinar, it was a Zoom or whatever. Very interesting. I guess they're going to have like a multi-month community engagement process, and it's going to be a split between market rate and affordable. It is a very large number of units. I can't remember for the listener right now, unfortunately, like how many it is, but I guess, it'll be quite interesting to see that come to fruition. And we definitely need the housing here. So I think we need the housing everywhere. We have to think about, I know we don't like to call Saugerties a dense urban center, but the Village, is a dense center. And, that's where we should be, where we have water and sewer ready, where we have roads ready. We should be encouraging housing development in those
There's not a lot of space in the Village.
No, there's not a lot of space in the Village.
And, as you get towards the outskirts, there's more. But they've contacted me, and I'm like, I don't even know where we could put a housing development in the Village. And so, other than converting some old buildings,
it may be onesies and twosies, exactly.
And the center of Woodstock is the same way. We've got water and sewer there. We've got a couple of lots taken up that could be taken up with affordable housing. And, it's a tough sell. Everybody likes their neighborhood. They don't want to see it change. We've got
I was afraid of that affordable housing type. When they hear that word, or, they all get afraid of, affordable housing or marketplace housing.
One of the opponents to the Rupco project in Woodstock said on a thread on Facebook to me that her biggest single regret is opposing that project. And I begged her to write it up in an essay, because her experience of what it's like actually having people there and having the project there is totally different from what she expected. And I think it would be a very helpful thing to share with other people.
I don't want to say I lost friends over that, because I think they've all come back around. But there were a lot of people angry with me. That cost me an election one year, my support for Rupco.
Yeah.
And with the exception of one person who moved out of town, so I don't even know how they feel, everyone came back and said, the least they said was, it's not so bad.
Right.
Other people were far more optimistic and positive. I think that has raised the value of that area dramatically. It's been a benefit.
I mean, I think we have to get in the place where we're saying housing, yes.
Yes. My one regret with the Repco project, I can't remember, I think it's 62 units they have in there. They gave up 10 units at our planning board, and the 10 units they gave up were owner occupied, where the folks would be buying them.
Oh.
And to me, that creates
cool.
even more diversity. It creates stakeholders, so you own a home there, now you have financial stake. And I think it just would have made an even better community. But it's beautiful.
Right.
It looks as nice today as it did 6-7 years ago when folks first started moving in.
Yeah, so we'll have to look. I mean, there's a number of projects online. I know, the Kingstonians in the planning phases. We have Golden Hill. I think there's a number of other significant projects around the county. And then we have things that we've thrown away, right? Like Sailor's Cove and, the AVR project, which was like 1,200 units.
Right.
that seems a little large for us, but I think we do need to figure out ways to start saying yes to stuff, and sometimes it does mean losing friends. My own mom was really not in favor of the Rupco project. My dad was, but my mom wasn't. They're not together.
Go Jay!
Yeah, but my father, he's like, yeah, I'm for it, but I don't actually live in Woodstock. I live in Saugerties. I just have my business in Woodstock, but no.
He's close to the border. We could annex.
Saugerstock.
Yeah.
Woodstock phone number, Woodstock address, Saugerties taxes. Yeah. Which was good all along up to, right. A little bit of a discount there. But, yeah, so the numbers are good on the financials. Sales tax is way up over last year and 2019. Yeah. And I don't know if you have businesses in your communities that are experiencing this, but I'm talking to some business owners that are having, amazing years. The problem is staffing. Yep. Joshua's is closing for the month of August because they have no staff. I'm like, what is happening? We raised this on the call with Antonio Delgado yesterday. He said that he thought that it was very unlikely federal unemployment insurance would be re-extended, and there was almost a round of applause on that on that call. But yeah, so
I bet there was.
Yeah, so it was all chamber presidents, so they're hearing it. The other issue I think is that like landlords, there's really been no support for landlords, and the congressman really thought we were talking about just residential, and there was that rental assistance, but it's true for commercial landlords as well, and these are maybe mom and pop folks, like me. And it's tough.
People lose sight of that. The landlord, it's like a politician. They have a bad reputation. And the truth is, there's a lot of good landlords out there who are struggling to pay mortgages, to pay their taxes and utilities.
If you got PPP, you should have to pay your lease obligations. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
But then I just want to say one other thing about the numbers. Since we were talking about the numbers, we crossed 100 cases, active cases in Ulster County yesterday. The county executive stood up the Emergency Operations Center again. It's Delta variant, and I'm telling my kids, plan for a winter at home. And I was hoping we wouldn't have to re-mask up until the fall, but I hate to say it. I think we're going to have to start putting masks on. I went to pick up Chinese food yesterday in Rosendale, and it is working man's, shop there. Not only was the whole staff masked, which was kind of normal, but every customer that came in was masked. Right. And I think, unfortunately, that's where we're going.
We're starting to see more masks in Woodstock, too.
I'm a little nervous. We're leaving for the Dominican Republic on Saturday, and now I'm looking over the guidelines, and we're all we have 19 of us going, and 17 are vaccinated. One isn't for health reasons, and the other one's under 12. But then we have to find out. We have to take a COVID test at the hotel on Tuesday that we're there, in order to come home.
Right.
And if if anybody tests positive, you have to be quarantined there for 10 days.
Oh my!
But I think you're going to skirt in under the. Big, you know what I mean?
No,
you're going to get your vacation
but
in.
I'm still nervous about it. Just in general, I'm not, oh my God, this is going to be, once we get there and we're set, it'd be fine. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm not looking forward to what's coming. And, school's going back. And
well, the CDC yesterday said all schools need to be masked.
K through 12.
K through 12 is going to have to be masked. I think we're just going to have to, just deal with it for a little bit.
We didn't need to be here. This
didn't
happen. It's so frustrating, and I was listening to CNN I've always said I haven't turned CNN off my radio since the election, and between COVID and everything else, and it's just the ignorance out there. I mean, come on. I mean, so many of these people who aren't vaccinated could have been vaccinated if the right message was put out by the right people.
I get hate mail on Instagram and stuff here, watch this video. You're just doing a disservice to your constituents by supporting vaccination. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't.
Listen, I wouldn't force anybody. I mean, it's just, I don't understand it, I guess.
You know what I would say to because I hear a lot of younger people, and by young, anybody below 45, and, I'll ask them, do you any of your friends have polio? Well, no.
Why do you think that is?
Exactly.
Right.
They're all paranoid about conspiracy and whatnot, and it's ridiculous. You're right,
The
Murphy.
legitimate reason why you're not getting shot, I understand. But if you have it because you're listening to all this false rhetoric that's going around, that's ridiculous.
And I don't judge in that sense. There are people that may want to hold off, and that's fine. just be smart and be appropriate. And
if you can, why not do it? So, Mayor, I don't know if you heard, but when Senator Hinchy honored Neil Smoller in Woodstock, there were huge shout-outs for you and Freddie.
Yes.
And that was really, really nice. And he was acknowledging just how much work got done in Saugerties. And it was a really beautiful event on the Village Green. And, Dr. Neil's done just a tremendous job. I mean, it brought up our numbers, and yeah.
It was interesting too, because I think the first 3 clinics we did were all in Woodstock, and they started at
Community center. Is that where you
at the community center. We did the first week. I think we did 100. We got 120 vaccinations. The second week we did 240. Forget the third week, but then the fourth week we did Saugerties. And so we went from a couple of hundred
thousands
to 15 or 1,700.
So remember, Neil called me on a Friday night and says, "Murph, I got 2,500 shots. Can we get rid of them? Can we get them out next week?" I'm like, "How do you want to do it?" He goes, "Can you call Kirk, superintendent?" I remember calling Superintendent Reinhardt 10 o'clock on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And he says yes.
I said, "Let's do it." So I said, Saturday morning we had a WebEx, Mr. Reinhardt, myself, Freddie, and Neil, and Greg. And by Saturday afternoon we had a plan, and that Tuesday we kicked it in and did the first 2,500 shots at the high school. It was just amazing, When Neil called me that night, my head's spinning. I'm like, how am I going to get, organized 2,500 shots? And we did it. It was just a great community effort.
It was a phenomenal effort, and it was a community effort. All the volunteers.
And the second time we did it 4 weeks later, it was smooth as anything. You were there the first day, remember?
I wasn't there the first day. I went to the mill, though. I don't know where that was.
The mill was before that. Like we did.
I think that was like the third week. We had some extra, and there was a couple of small ones.
We did the senior in the mill the first and the last Tuesday in February, then the fourth Tuesday in March.
It really was a beautiful thing to see people who, my grandmother used to live at the mill, so I know a bunch of people in the community who are not going to get on a bus and don't have a car, to be able to get the vaccination. And yeah, it was really.
Well, that was it. We did the 3 senior housings first, and then this is after we did them.
Right.
The first shot. Neil calls me and says, "All right, let's get to the high school."
Right.
It was. And listen, you can claim Neil if you want, but he's a Saugerties boy.
Oh no, I know that. I know that
too.
I clapped when he said Saugerties. I clapped.
I just want to clarify that.
No.
To his roots all the time.
You know what? When I got the text actually to prove it. When Neil and I first started talking about this, it was probably back in October or November, and we had Fred included, and I said, "Fred, this is a Woodstock Saugerties initiative. It's not about Woodstock." And
then it went to the whole Hudson Valley because Neil really had a great road
He
show.
must have a whole new wardrobe from every college. They gave him shirts and jackets.
Exactly.
His closet's got to be full.
But he is a little bit of a skunk because, so we gave him the key to the city. We also.
You robbed a bank?
Guitar.
Yes.
Exactly. That Rennie Cantor.
But I gotta say that his helper, Morgan Edwards, is just a phenomenal young woman.
Yes, she is.
And we didn't have a key for her. So what I did is I got a card from Chief Clayton Keefe and put on the back, get out of jail free card for Morgan.
I can't wait till she sees that.
Well, Neil tries to use it the next night.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I know we didn't really talk too much about financial stuff, but
next month we'll get it.
You did good, March. Thank you so much. We're gonna go to break, and then we'll come back with birthdays and Kevin Cahill.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the drug facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the drug facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/drug facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're fighting against childhood cancer every day. At the heart of this battle are our donors.
Most of us want to make some type of difference in the lives of others. St. Jude does miraculous work.
The fact that no one has to pay, it's a place where everyone is treated as an equal.
Everybody is welcome here, and it doesn't matter your religion or what part of the world you're from. All that is taken away. It just gives you some hope.
It's just a nice feeling to put your energy into something that really does genuinely make a difference in a child's life.
There's just no greater gift. If we have the ability to help, then we have a responsibility to help.
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Find out how you can help at stjude.org.
Hi, this is Tony Marmo from Norman Staffing, and we've been bringing together employers and job seekers since 1980. If you're an employer and have job vacancies, let Norman Staffing help fill them with permanent or temporary workers. We screen, interview, and recommend the best candidates for your company. We make the employment process easier and faster for you. Please call Norman Staffing for your employment needs at 338-9111, 338-9111, or normanstaffing.com.
Hi, this is Jim Quigley, supervisor of the town of Ulster, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
Rondout Savings Bank has a long history of serving local communities and maintaining a strong tradition of customer service excellence while providing each customer with the personal attention they deserve. Rondout Savings' approach to community banking puts you and the growth of your business in the front of everything they do. They're a different kind of bank and would like to tell you why, so please reach out to one of their expert business bankers for an appointment and let them show you what they can do for you. Rondout Savings Bank, always working for you and the community with branches in Kingston, West Hurley, and Hyde Park. Also online at rondoutbank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Okay, we're back with Bill Squared and Kevin Solo. You guys got some birthdays before we jump in with Kevin?
We do. We got a couple. First, I have happy birthday to Jean Lang from your friends at the Girls' Night Out Book Club.
That sounds like a good time. And I have happy birthday to Whitney Boyer from your friends at the Girls' Night Out Book Club. They must be
wow, they
really
have
something night out tonight, man.
I'm guessing so. Also, have a 31st birthday wish to Joel Van Valkenburg from Mom, Dad, Gramp, and Graham Claw, Grandma Van, Sibs Philip, Megan, Seth, Aunt Muriel, and Aunt Paula.
All right, and our winner for the famous cow pie from Boyce's Dairy Milk House is Whitney Boyer.
Okay.
Go ahead and ring the bell, Bill.
Where's the bell?
There you go.
Moo. There we go. All right, Whitney, congratulations.
So those ladies are going to party hard tonight.
I don't move,
reading up a storm.
Stop by Boyce's Dairy Milk House and pick up your cow pie and let us know where the Girls' Night Out party is tonight, and we'll join you.
Make sure you bring a book.
I'll bring a book.
BYOB.
You want to know what kind of book I'm going to bring?
Let us know next week.
So good to see you all, and especially I haven't had a chance to thank you in person for this sumptuous headquarters. These delicious looking, wonderful.
He helped us carry everything.
I know, that's what I heard. I heard that this would never have happened without Bill McKenna.
Oh no! You give me too much credit.
It's a little bit different than having Lawrence move the bucket next to the soundboard, or
it's a step up.
Watching the asbestos flake off the ceiling, or
it's nice digs, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's very nice.
I miss the old bath.
So how are you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing pretty well, Bill. How about you?
I'm well, thanks. It was good to see you in Woodstock the other day.
It was great to be there, and we had a little celebration of the candidates, and so many of them are running without opponents, including yourself.
Yes.
Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
I know people perceive that as a problem. I don't. You can't be blamed for who does or does not run against you, although I've taken that hit 3 times in my career. It's not it's in many ways it's a testimony to the fact that people are fairly satisfied with what you're doing.
And that's the way I take it.
And oftentimes, even if they are satisfied, you still get an opponent, and the race does not inform. Right. So you have an opportunity as an unopposed candidate this year with, well, no ballot opposition now with ballots that you use a pen on.
Right.
Write-ins are a lot more prevalent, but you have an opportunity to do what I did in the years when I didn't have an opponent. That is, I went out and I banged the drum for so many other candidates.
So there's one good candidate we're going to have to bang the drum for.
That's right. John Hepner has an opponent, and got two, actually.
Yes.
Jonathan Hepner being attacked from the left.
It's a little hard to fathom.
So we went through the roster. You have two great town board candidates. I know one is it's a bittersweet candidacy, and that has been having lost it. We'll lose him on the school board, where he has been a valuable asset.
Yes. Yeah.
And
that's unfortunate, but we'll still have him in Woodstock. He'll be coming, and look forward to working with him. And so my deputy supervisor for the last 2 years, Maria Elena Conti, also
so Maria Elena's name there
prevails. So she's brought a lot of sage advice to the town board.
Now let's talk about the most important office, highway superintendent.
Scott Bonesteel.
Scott
Bonesteel's worked for the highway department. I think he's closing in on 35 years.
As it should be.
Yeah. And when Mike decided to step down about 6-8 months ago, Mike, Scott, and I started to talk. And, it was interesting because Mike was at the highway department a long time, and Billy Harder groomed him to take over. Yes. And Mike said, I like being number two. I don't want to be the boss. And Stan Lungier got elected, and Stan passed away. And I remember going to Mike the next morning, and I said, Mike, either you're running or I'm running.
Well, I was going to ask you, and the same with you, Bill, as mayor. That's the most important person you rely upon on a day-to-day basis, right? I mean,
absolutely.
That's the one that has to handle all the problems. If there's a storm, if there's a backup in a sewer, if there's a tree down, if there's this, if there's that. That's and to fill those potholes when you can't get people who are living in parking lots to do it for you.
I remember going to the school they put on when you first got elected. There's 3 days up in Albany. And question after question from these newly elected, what happens if you don't get along with your highway superintendent?
You quit.
And, I couldn't even fathom it, because while I was just newly elected, I'd been involved with Jeremy. I was on the Zoning Board of Appeals. I was, on the edges on how it all worked. And everybody pretty much got along, Jeremy and Bill Harder. They had their disagreements, but they worked together.
Right.
So I couldn't even imagine being in a relationship where you weren't getting along with this one or that one.
I've had three of them, and when each one left, originally Bob Shalanti, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to replace him? We had such a good rapport. He got what we needed to do. And like you said, they're the most important, they're the backbone of our community. No question about it.
Well, the bigger the town, the physically bigger the town, the smaller the supervisor's office, and the larger and larger and larger the facility is for the highway superintendent.
Yeah.
Sometimes they look like football stadiums.
And that's fine by me.
Yeah. So, and then there was one other office which I wholeheartedly apologize, because he's one of my longest friends in public, and also one of my longest friends, period. And that was Richard Houston, who was running for re-election to the position of town justice for the 6th or 7th time, I believe.
I can't remember if he said it'd been 24 or 28 years.
Well, he said both, because he said, I think
was
it was
it
24 and 26. 24 as judge and 2 what he would call miserable years as a county legislator.
Okay. So I didn't make up those numbers. I
just remember calling him with great regularity that year, begging him to run again. I was intent on developing a roster of candidates for the county legislature that would be unbeatable. And Richard was, and not only that, but Richard was great on the county legislature. But now he's the town judge, and probably with some recent passings, probably the senior judge in Ulster County. I'm going to guess.
That's probably correct. Yeah.
Which is it's a hard thing to become a senior judge, because a lot of these guys are in there for 30 or 40 years.
Right.
But so congratulations to Richard, and of course David Ganlin and Kevin Bryant were there, along with Sarah Rakoff, a hometown girl coming home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice
So
to see her. Nice
yeah.
to see she got in.
Sarah Rakoff is running for family court, and she's a terrific lawyer, and she'll make a great family court judge, and I think she'll bring some energy to the bench that anybody who knows her father knows the kind of energy here. Peter is he's got to be approaching 90, but he drives around. I went to the Clark in Williamstown, Massachusetts, and I was with a friend, and I was like, well, don't worry, we're not going to run into anybody we know right here. And sure enough, Peter
Guess
was
what?
Peter was at the handicap spot right next to the door to the museum with his Colgate truck. So congratulations to Sarah
Small
Rakoff,
world.
too. So yeah, I don't want to forget, and I'll mention it again in the next half hour because people tune in at different half hours. But there is right now an absolutely terrific exhibit at the Friends of Historic Kingston, Fred Johnston House on the corner of Wall and Main, across from the St. Joseph's Church and the Old Dutch Church and Joe O'Connor's law office.
What's the theme?
The theme is Signs of the Time. And it is the folks that used to run Majeska Sign Studios that were responsible for the billboards, but also for all of the handmade signs that were part of businesses. It is a fascinating exhibit, but even more so if you're a geezer like me and you remember these stores. Some of the signs date back to the 30s, which I clearly don't remember, but most of them were around in the 60s and the 70s at a time when I would recall. And they actually have the actual storefront signs.
Oh, wow.
And they have the pictures of billboards. I went because they have a picture of a collage of billboards, of political billboards. And there's Maurice Hitchie's first campaign, the one he lost in 1972. There's Al Spada, Mike Kavanaugh.
Oh, wow.
Don Quick, Peter Mancuso for mayor, and then there's Karen Peters, the family court judge, and then there's 5 candidates for the county legislature, of which I was one. So my name was on there, along with several other candidates, my good friends Jack Finch, John Dwyer. I think it was Gene Perry. I'm trying to remember who. Now I can't remember the fifth. But the billboards, when you look at the billboard, if you're from this area, you say, I know where that is. Or you see the storefront, and you say, of course. And what strikes me, and this really struck me about Main Street and Wall Street, how similar they looked. Is it Maine? Which is the one? Yeah, that's Maine. So there was a W.T. Grant and things like that, right? And you look at the 2 main streets and the shoe store and the this and the that. Well, up there, your shoe store is on partition, but you look at the 2 main, the Wall Street in Kingston and Main Street in Saugerties. They look very, very similar. They did not look like Taker Street in Woodstock.
Yes. We are unique.
J.J. Newberry's, the pharmacy.
Same thing, right?
Yeah,
Yep, same
all the
thing.
neat stores. As a kid, you had plenty of places to go to and do a little shopping,
Right.
I was, poor Nina Posterpeck, and I've said this before on the air, when we would march in a parade and go down Broadway, Nina and I would often march together. Nina's younger than me, significantly younger than me. I think she went to school with my daughters.
Okay.
But I would tell her what was in what business when.
Oh, wow.
So we would go block by block down Broadway. And it occurred to me just a few months ago, and I guess maybe because I was too busy trying to figure out the next building when I was talking to Nina at the time, how many blocks had a drugstore, a liquor store, and a gas station.
Yeah.
Almost every block. Within a single block on Broadway, there was a drugstore, a gas station, and a liquor store. And the liquor store.
Each little communities.
Yep. And then, of course, Kingston was peppered with these little pubs all over the place. Now, none of them rose to the point where they were willing or able to pay Majeska Sign Studios to make a sign. But so there's very few, although there are a couple that I didn't recognize, a couple taverns. You should have these folks on, Lawrence should have these folks on the air because this is a fascinating exhibit. And right now I think it's only open to the public from Friday and Saturday, 11 to 4 p.m. through the months of July of October of this year and May through October of next year.
Very nice.
And it is a terrific exhibit. You will, I don't know if anybody saw the IBM exhibit that was there last year. That 2 years ago, that was terrific. But this one brings the streets back to life, and invariably, like the people that were there, if you're walking through, you will hear somebody at the next exhibit or the last exhibit telling a story about that exhibit, and it's not the curator; it's just somebody that came in to see.
Right.
So, but
sounds like you're in the running for next historian for Kingston.
You know, I'll come back to that. No. But what I wanted to, just one last thing about this is that the Majeska family meticulously recorded. They hired professional photographers to go out and take photographs of every single installation, so everything is documented.
Wow. Nice that they had the foresight to do that.
It was great. It was great. So on the subject of historian, first of all, our current historian is great, but there will never, ever, ever be a replacement for Ed Ford, who was just a font. And you know, because every town has one, and I know the Saugerties historian and the Kingston historian used to both worship at the altar of the Woodstock historian, Alf Evers.
Right.
And I think the Saugerties historian actually was working with Alf for the past several years of his life, helping him do stuff. But I love to learn about the history. I love to read about the history. I'm very fortunate that my friend Tom Hoffe delivers history books to me all the time. I have the 2 seminal books about Kingston's history sitting on my coffee table right now, unbroken, not opened. Maybe I'll bring it to the women's book club tonight.
There you go.
But I love to learn about it. But quite honestly, I don't have the very unique skill or capacity that the people like Ed and Alf and others have had to contextualize it and to make it a good narrative.
That is a skill.
It is an art.
A gift.
Yeah, it's a gift. And I remember when you and I know Ed Sanders, who's also a terrific writer and author, and actually completed Alf's last book for him. But you can identify in the book where Ed wrote and where Alf wrote.
Yeah.
And, you know, Ed, who was taking a little bit to flourish, and Alf, who was taking a little bit to, how can I put it, sort of like the Schoonmaker book in Kingston. It's like a book of lists. Right. What I really love about our communities is that our history is changing. And there's another great history book about Woodstock, a modern history book called, now I'm going to forget the name of it, Miles from Woodstock.
Yeah, okay.
Authored by the great Jeremy Wilbur. Yeah. And it tells the story, for all intents and purposes, of Jeremy's life in Woodstock. With names changed.
Interesting ride.
Names changed so he can names changed so he can murder them in print.
Skewer the guilty.
Skewer the guilty, right? But you know, it is fascinating to learn about it. And whenever I learn something new about the place I live, I'm thrilled. 2 weeks ago, that's where I was. We were trying to figure out why I couldn't be here 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I was in Boston. I was at the National Conference of Insurance Legislators, and our host, of course, was Boston and Massachusetts. So we had lunch with Governor Charlie Baker. And Governor Baker is the single most popular politician in the United States of America today.
Wow.
He has a 79% approval rating amongst his voters.
I'd take that every day.
And nationally. He is a moderate, social liberal, fiscal conservative Republican.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly a fish out of water right now with his party, but
need more of them, though.
What a terrific and dynamic speaker he was. But before, because I'm an officer and I knew I would actually be sitting at the table with him, I knew I had to bone up a little bit on who is Charlie Baker.
Right.
And I found out that his great-grandfather was a member of the Assembly in the 1870s, 1880s, give or take, around the 1880s. But then I delved a little bit further. He was the first Charles Baker. I delved a little bit further and found out that Charles Baker's mother's name was, I think it was Elizabeth Fleming. And that's all I had to hear was Fleming, because that's a Kingston name, and that's like my favorite history Kingston name.
Any connections?
Well, I said to the governor. We talked for about 10 minutes before he spoke, and I said, and as I was about to say, your great grandfather was in the assembly, he says, my great grandfather was in the assembly. And I said, yeah, but I got better for you. I said his mother's name was Fleming, and I said Fleming is one of the most important names in universal health care. He said, "Oh, you have me fascinated. We have to talk about it." I said, "When you're done with lunch, we'll talk for a few more minutes." Instead of coming back to the table, he was only supposed to speak for 20 minutes and take about 10 minutes worth of questions. He spoke for a half hour, and he took half hour worth of questions. His security people, because he had to be in Salem, Massachusetts next, his security people were just like sweating bullets. Like, how are we going to get this guy out of here? But so we didn't. He just scooted off right after his speech. We didn't have a chance to talk. But that was, to me, if I had had a chance to talk to him about Arthur Fleming and the Fleming family and Sherwood Fleming and all the people from our community, Sherwood Fleming was the lawyer for Thomas Cornell. So for all intents and purposes, he was one of the people that built modern Kingston, the industrial Kingston. And Arthur Fleming, of course, was the man who conceived and actually created the blueprint for the creation of Medicare and Medicaid in this country. And so they're my heroes in politics and government. So I would have loved to have a chance, and I'm going to send.
You get back
I'm going to send Governor Baker a letter. But yeah, so I love it, but I get fixated on a few things, as people well know.
It's interesting. So my boy came down. He's living down in Kingston now the last year and a half. Absolutely loves it. But so that's piqued my interest in Kingston history. And
so you got your papers in order. You found your passport.
Yeah. I can come down to visit. Yes.
There's a road. Did you take the road? 28 and 375. You can actually drive here.
It's fascinating. It's a lovely drive.
Did the horse carriages get in the way?
Now you're sounding like my wife, Kevin. Hillary opens up the newspaper the other day and says, "Oh, look, there's a nice restaurant down in Crohanks, we should go," because that's about the limit of my travels.
Well, when do you want to go? Like August?
Yeah, I might take you up on that
overnight trip.
So you've been coming to Kingston.
We not only that, but my bookkeeper from the Boyle family. She's a old time Kingston family, and so she's been bringing me up a book now and then, looking at the history, and it's fascinating.
You related to Boyle's Tavern?
Boyley's, yeah.
Boyley's, yeah.
That's was her dad and her grandfather.
It's an apartment complex now, a Rupco apartment complex.
Rupco family, is that yeah.
I remember Boyley's.
Yeah, that used to be, I think, the Central Hudson guys, because wasn't Central Hudson?
It was Central Hudson and City Hall.
And City Hall, okay, both of them. Okay, so
and the hospital.
So you would know her dad?
Yeah, well, I was a kid, but I knew people that hung there.
I did. Okay.
So I was a little kid.
You never leaned on the.
I might have.
Okay.
You can't implicate people about the drinking laws in Kingston in the 1960s and 70s.
There's got to be a statute of limitation.
I'm sure there is, and I'm sure that I violated the law then.
Yeah, we all did. I'll tell you a story someday.
Yeah, so you've learned your.
But it's fascinating. The industry that used to go on here, the factories, the businesses. I mean, this is a thriving community back in the day.
It is interesting to see what's happening now with the community, because we're seeing these little pockets of people who are in business, and you don't realize how big their business is, how income generating their business is, and that income is coming into Kingston. It's driving up housing prices.
It's the hottest market, I think, in the country right now.
It is. It's driving up housing prices, but it's also bringing a fresh blood and fresh breath into the community. I think that the housing issue, I heard you mentioning it with March, is one that we really have to get our arms around in every possible way. There is no house that we don't need. We need affordable housing. We need moderate income housing. We need luxury housing. We need every level of housing.
Diversity is what's going to make our community strongest. And
that's what I fear in my neighborhood right now. I think my neighborhood is ground zero. Houses in my neighborhood were written up in the Wall Street Journal, and in the Washington Post about the example of how things have gone out of control. And I worry that, that family with the little baby is not going to be able to move in the neighborhood, or that elderly couple may decide that, okay, maybe this is the time we make our retirement money, and they leave.
Yeah.
And it changes the character of the neighborhood. So that's a big concern of mine.
And change is always scary. Change can be very good, but it always makes us all very nervous. And we're a victim of our own success. We've created communities and areas that are so desirable, people want to come here.
If I can just switch gears for a slight second about the discussion recently about the Novo Foundation and Peter Buffett in particular, and their investments in our community. We're talking about the neighborhoods that I live in that are on, real estate wise, or just, just going crazy. The Novo Foundation and Peter Buffett in particular, and Jennifer, are not investing in those neighborhoods. Right. They're not bringing people into those neighborhoods. Novo has recently purchased some houses in Midtown Kingston to provide community space for neighborhoods that don't have community space. Peter has just helped put together the resources with Neil Kalman and the Institute for Family Health to bring a health clinic right to Midtown Kingston. That's not gentrification.
No.
That is beneficence, that is thoughtful and deliberate. And, the stories that have appeared in a couple of media around here is that, there's such secrecy. Well, it's private.
Right.
And while I welcome the sunshine on it, he and his foundation and she and her foundation have no obligation to us whatsoever. What we are obligated to do is to see if we have a consistent vision, and if we do, to do our part to make sure that vision comes true. So I think the concepts that Novo has been advancing here of economic justice and sustainability are, they go without saying. So if somebody is willing to give us the tools we need to accomplish those goals, we probably should work hard to make it happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just wanted to.
Good plug.
Well, I saw Stacy Ryan's letter to the editor today, and it reminded me that I maybe stood silent at a time I should have spoken. And I, whether it's, Peter Buffett is about the same age as me, has grown up in a circumstance not dissimilar from mine. He grew up in a middle class family in a house that would have been perfectly comfortable in West Hurley.
Right.
And it's where his dad still lives today. But we both rode our bikes as kids. We both got into music, and if only I could have the resources to improve my community the way this person in this organization has done, that would be a good thing. So I don't want to dwell on that, but I thought it was important to mention.
I said earlier we were talking about development, and we have a moratorium up in Woodstock, and the objective is not to stop development; it's to incentivize and get the type of development we need. And I've said a number of times we can't demonize the developer, just like we can't demonize wealthy folks across the board, because it's not how much money they've made, it's what they're going to do with it.
When you look at historic pictures, let's take Woodstock for example. When you look at historic pictures of Birdcliff, 9 times out of 10, well, I won't say that, I'll say 6 times out of 10, you're going to be looking at a picture of somebody building something.
Right.
They're going to be building a barn. They're going to be building a cabin. They're going to be replacing a wall. When you go through the history, and Richard would be the perfect person, Richard Hepner would be the perfect person to talk about this here, but when you go through the history of Woodstock, it was a mill town, and you're going to go through and you're going to see the development of the mills and the development of the houses around the mills, and the architecture of Woodstock is that of a mill town.
Yes.
So development is not good or bad, it's just a thing.
Right.
And Saugerties is largely an industrial town. I mean, built in the late 1800s, really, more than any other time. And that character is there. One of the things I think we have an obligation to do is to make sure that when we are inviting development, it is compatible. It does not redefine the community unless that's what we are looking for.
The direction we want to go.
Right. So, I watched the massive struggle in your community in Woodstock over the library.
Yeah.
And
that's a perfect example.
Right. And I've watched also just the lesser discussion about improvements at the town property, right? Yeah, make it consistent.
Right.
We're not a museum.
Right.
And we have human beings that live here. We want a certain quality of life for everyone, but that's going to require some diversity, and that means we're going to have to do something about making sure people have a place to live.
We adopted a comprehensive plan for the first time in 55 years back in 2018. And the two big things that came out of it was preserve open space, create affordable housing.
Right.
And I get that you can have both, but I don't think it's an easy concept because they almost contradict one another to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'll have people say, oh, no, it says preserve open space. I said, but it says housing, too.
The way you preserve open space is by creating
Exactly.
responsible housing.
You put the two together, and they're very compatible if you work at it.
I tell the story, probably making it up, which is another reason I shouldn't be a historian, of the village of Rhinebeck. When this goes back probably close to 100 years, when they were putting in their community water system, the contractor said, you can have a 6-inch main or you can have an 8-inch main. What do you want? And they said, give us a 6-inch main. That will keep our community small. And now they're busting at the seams. They want the 8-inch, but I think we make our decisions, and when we make our decisions, we act accordingly. When I was listening to your discussion earlier, I don't know if Lawrence wants to do a break, but when I was listening to your discussion earlier with Bill Murphy, I was thinking how much Woodstock really could have still use a village.
Oh,
how many things that Bill has on his plate that Fred doesn't have on his, because there is a village government there to handle it,
Right.
that are vastly different from everything else you're concerned with in the town. But you are both the supervisor and the mayor.
And they're both going in opposite directions. Jeremy had a great way of putting it, because the chamber would come and they'd want this, that, or the other thing. They'd want free parking, they'd want this, and they said, that's all wonderful, but remember, I have to respond to Mr. and Mrs. Willow.
Yes.
Referring to the hamlet of Willow, and they have different wants and desires. And I used that story a month ago at the chamber meeting and said, I've got to balance this all out. And
that brings me to another question that I actually was going to raise on Sunday, when just in passing, but I figured I better talk to you first. And so what the heck, I'll drop it on the air.
Break.
Legalized marijuana sales. You have
Woodstock weed.
Yeah,
I've already talked to Neil Smaller.
I think that this is something that, as the town board delves into it, it is going to require a significant amount of thought before you go forward. I don't know, and I apologize for not knowing this, whether the law allows you to say yes a little bit.
Or
do you say yes or no, or can you say yes, but this is the way it has to happen? And that's important, because a place like Woodstock with a name like Woodstock could be absolutely overrun.
That's going to be very interesting. I know one of the limiting factors is going to be, and I think it will be very limiting, is the distances it has to be from schools and churches.
Yes.
And we do have them spread out through the middle of town.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a real limiting factor for us.
Yeah.
It was interesting because the board, we really didn't talk about it much, and, I assume nobody would have any strong objections to permitting it, but the newspaper called me up one day wanting to know, and I said, well, yeah, and then I said, well, hold off, let me talk to my board.
There are certain things about it that on the surface you say, oh yeah, absolutely, positively,
Right.
and then you start delving into it and you say, oh, wait a second now. Also on premises, there's going to be on premises lounges for all
Right.
intents and purposes. Guarantee somebody's going to want to open one of those in Woodstock.
So we have had a few calls, only one group is serious, and they're actually going to buy a building. It's just going to be to dispense. There'll be no on-premises consumption. And we'll see. It's going to be interesting.
Lawrence, did you want to take, we missed the 8:30.
You guys are getting such a good conversation. I didn't want to interrupt you, so we got all our commercials played. If you want to keep going, or if you need a break.
No, we're
we
good.
can take a break.
No, we're good. Well, yeah, we'll just leave some empty air here. So yeah, I think if Massachusetts is an example, and it's a good one because a lot of what we did was premised upon the Massachusetts experience, for the first 2 or 3 years of legalized adult use marijuana in Massachusetts, the number of dispensaries were few and far between. There was like 2 in the eastern portion, there were 2 in the central portion, and there were 1 or 2 in the eastern portion, in the western portion of Massachusetts. Today, they dot the landscape. We were mentioning Wellfleet, which, by the way, I don't think they charge for parking. Maybe down on the pier. On the pier, they do. But in Wellfleet, which is a town very similar to Woodstock in many respects. In fact, there are some people who have galleries in both places.
Right.
2 years ago, before COVID, there were no dispensaries, even on Cape Cod.
Right.
Now there are 4 dispensaries within 5 miles of Wellfleet.
Wow.
Yeah. And what struck me was one of the stores I used to go to, one of the general stores I used to go to, go pick up a swimmy for the kids, or you need to go out and get beer before the blue laws shut you down on Sunday or something. That grocery store is gone, and now it's a dispensary.
Wow.
And the major supermarket is about to become a dispensary on Route 6. And the bank is a dispensary on Route 6. So what it has done is, yes, it's absorbed all this real estate that was being used for other purposes, but now those other purposes aren't there anymore.
Right.
Like there's not a new general store that was built next to the one that closed down to
So
open up
they've
the
lost that.
dispensary. And I think that's an important consideration as well. The people that I talked to about it, they even said, "Oh, don't worry, this will all shake out in 2 years. That one and that one will close because they're not quality, and that one is." I don't believe it. I think the profit margins are strong enough that.
But even if that does happen, though, you've lost the store and the bank and everything else now, and they're not necessarily going to come back. And
That's
now
correct.
now you may be looking at a vacant building.
Right.
So
very important considerations. And Bill, are you taking this issue up in Saugerties? We're talking about legalized marijuana dispensaries.
Yeah, we've actually had a couple inquiries so far in the village. I actually met with prospective people yesterday, and interesting enough, they're looking to convert one of the old banks, possibly. We have stricter guidelines in the village than the town has, as far as where they can be located. So there's not, they can't be within 500 feet of a church.
And 200 feet of a school or something like
And it's
that.
the way the crow, and says, not as the crow flies. So like I had someone else who was interested at one point, and just the way the building they wanted was located by the crow's fly. They're about 150 feet from a church. So
Is it as the crow flies, or because that's not the rule we use in liquor? In liquor, we use main entrance to main entrance.
I was told it's a crow's fly.
Yeah.
Now I don't know how factual that is, and we haven't, gotten to that point yet. As far as
And that could be refined as we
Right.
go along. Yeah.
So right now, one perspective one is the old Key Bank on used to be Statewide Savings when I was a kid. It's on Main Street near. Well, it's on. Where is it? By J.J. Newberry's there. It's the
Right.
one that has a clock that spins around.
Yep.
So, and they like the idea of the bank because it's got vaults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cash business.
Security is a big issue because
And the owner of the building likes it because I don't take the safes out then.
So I think that in terms of both of you, the larger area of potential development is not in Woodstock and not in the village of Saugerties, but in the town of Saugerties at exit 20 on the thruway. And where 212 is there, because if you're going to Woodstock for the weekend with your buds, and you want to pick up a little buds, you're going to do it right out when you get out the thruway. And the easy on, easy off is a concept, but also, I don't have to stop until I get there. But when you get there, you want to stop right away. So I can very well see the development of right there. And then the next question is the growing. And the commercial growing more in particular.
Because didn't I read somewhere where the product sold in New York State has to be grown in New York State?
I don't know if that's true. I mean,
Okay.
I don't believe it's true in Massachusetts, so I don't know for sure if that's true, and I apologize for not knowing. I should. I spent 5 years with this law before it became law.
So one of the other things I'd like to follow up with you is, so with liquor stores, I know that they look at the population of a community, and then they base the number of licenses on population. So Woodstock, we have 2. We have a third person trying to come in with something that's a little unique, and I know they've indicated they may deny it, but there may be some wiggle room. But ultimately, they're looking at that population and saying you've got enough already. They're not going to do that with the.
I hope they do,
Yeah.
and I think that was the initial approach in Massachusetts. But something has been abandoned in that regard because they are mushrooms growing after an 18-day rain in Massachusetts. They're everywhere, and the thing about liquor stores is, yes, they do limit them, but here's what happened to liquor stores. There were at their peak 7,500 or 10,000 liquor stores in New York State. There's only about 2,500 right now. So the sense of how many liquor stores are appropriate for a community is usually an academic exercise, because the number of licenses that were, and it's not a limited number of licenses, it is a philosophy and a value system. But the number of licenses that are issued today, that are alive today, are significantly lower than the number of licenses that were around.
Right.
What's happening with liquor stores is, and this could also happen with dispensaries, is there's an effort to consolidate ownership. But I know you have a call. So
we got a phone call. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. One of the primary responsibilities of government is to provide for the safety of the people. Now, Kevin, since you have supported the bill legalizing marijuana and the releasing of criminals without bail, we know and we have seen a rise in the kind of conditions that are affecting our cities and affecting the people, where people are afraid to walk the streets. And where we're seeing where, with the marijuana, that the streets are just loaded with the smell of it in like New York City and others. Now, when you wrote the bills, or were part of it and voting for it, did you include, will there be reports to the people of how many people have used marijuana as an entrance to the more difficult and horrendous, harder drug usage that is plaguing our city and our citizens? And for the bills that criminals are being released all over without bail into the streets to commit more and more crimes. They get arrested, they're released, they commit another crime, they're released, they commit another crime, released. What are the statistics of those conditions happening, which are affecting the quality of life and the safety of the people? People being mugged constantly. Senior citizens especially are afraid to walk the streets in many of our cities for fear that they may be mugged, as we see daily on the news reports. Now, are you willing to redo the 2 bills, one on marijuana, or give us the reports of what are the conditions and the consequences of the use of use of marijuana in terms of crimes or accidents, etc., that are committed, and also what is the recidivism of people being released without bail back to the cities and towns? I mean, this is a horrible situation that we're creating, where people do no longer feel safe in their homes because people are being shot from from these gangs and all that are shooting and the bullets go off into cars and killing children and people. Now, what are you doing to provide for our safety and correcting the bills that you helped pass and giving the report to the people? What have been the consequences of it? Do you have statistics for it? What are the consequences of those 2 bills in particular?
Hello, Paul. I wanted to make sure you got all your statements and questions in before I spoke, but it's good to hear from you. And as always, the questions are important ones, and one I'm very much prepared to answer. Number one is there has almost never been a connection between marijuana use and crime, except for the crime of using marijuana. And one of the reasons why it was so finally determined to decriminalize and legalize adult use marijuana was for that very reason. There really was no connection to other acts of criminality, except for the fact that it was in and of itself criminal, and that introduced people to the criminal element for the first time in their lives. So removing it from
created conditions for the people who used it and moved on to the higher opioids and other use of fentanyl, which we're seeing increase.
Yeah, actually, when it comes to opioids and the drugs you just mentioned, the gateway is prescription medication, not legalized marijuana or illegal marijuana. The gateway is prescription medication that creates a physical dependence on the drug and exacerbates other underlying emotional and mental health issues. But no, there's no evidence that marijuana leads to crime. That was your question. And yes, there is built into the law for legalized adult use marijuana a requirement, a significant requirement, not only that it be studied, but that we invest a portion of the tax proceeds into determining the impact of legalized adult use marijuana on society, and also to provide law enforcement with additional tools to make sure that legalized adult use marijuana does not become illegal child use marijuana. So the answer to your question is yes. We have provided the means of doing so. The next question was about bail. Excuse me. On the subject of bail, I am not an expert. I did vote for the law. I do support the law. I continue to support the law. But I also will make sure you understand that we included in the bail law an obligation on the part of the authorities, law enforcement and criminal justice statistical organizations, to begin for the first time to actually analyze the impact of people who are released on bail and people who are incarcerated for extended periods of time, and to determine if any connection can be made to their release and the commission of a crime. Now, there's no question about it. If somebody is locked up, even if they're there with just, $700 bail that they couldn't make, if they commit a crime, their crime is going to be committed against another inmate in that facility. That's an absolute fact. If that person is on the street and they are prone to committing a crime, then that means that crime will be committed in the general public. But like many crimes, it's probably going to be within the close circle around that individual. There have been 2 studies so far, and neither study connects the changes in our bail law to the uptick in crime, in particular in violent crime. And that's logical. When you look across the country, New York changed its bail laws, but Iowa didn't. New York changed its bail laws, but Florida didn't. New York changed its bail laws, but all these other states didn't. And their violent crime and gun crime has grown exponentially as well. So I'm not going to say, I'm not going to deny a connection. I'm just going to say that there is no statistical connection between the two. Now, the second part of that, and this is an important point because I want those statistics. I do want to know, and the answer to your other question, if I believe these things were endangering society, yes, I would consider going back and revising those laws. That has not been established. But what has been established is that perhaps the universe of statistics that we have required the authorities to keep do not give us enough precise information to allow us to answer these questions definitively. So we may have to ask for more information, and indeed, that's something we will be taking up when we return to the Capitol.
Very good. I appreciate that because I think it is critical information to have to see what correlations are there. Now, one of the things that we're hearing is that there are some states where apparently they are prosecutors who aren't showing up to the trials of criminals, and murderers and others are being released because there's no prosecutor. If that should ever happen in our state, will there be a law taking away, if the person wasn't sick and didn't have legitimate reason for not showing up, and then the court should just suspend until they can get the person to come in or a new prosecutor? But if the prosecutor is just being so negligent that their license be revoked.
Well, I think that's already the law. If it was negligence on the part of the prosecutor, if they committed what, for all intents and purposes, is legal malpractice, their license is at risk. What is happening in many communities is that the resources are not available. I look at our own community with District Attorney David Clegg. David Clegg went to the county legislature and he said, we are seeing a significant turnover, to be expected. You change parties, you change leadership, you change the organizational structure, a number of people are going to go. We're experiencing a significant change in our staffing, and I need more resources. They said, in addition to that, because people like me in the state legislature and elsewhere have put more resources into defense, many of the people who were previously working just prosecution found it more appropriate for them to apply their trade, their skills in the defense realm instead of the prosecution realm. So that was another reason that David lost some staff. When he came to the county legislature, I'm not going to say they turned a deaf ear. I will say that they did not understand the gravity of his request, but they now do, because exactly what you said about a prosecution, not necessarily, it was the process of the prosecution rather than the merits of the case that led to release of a violent individual. That came about because the community did not put the resources in the district attorney's office that was necessary. So we have to listen to our district attorneys, and I do, across the state, in particular in our community, to make sure that we are giving them the tools they need, that they believe they need, to properly do their job, carry out their prosecutions, and so that the guilty get convicted, and those who deserve jail go to jail, and those who are dangerous are kept from the rest of society. But I don't want to conflate this issue as I think your early suggestion was, all due respect. I think that the issue about the bail laws, which does not involve violent felonies, murderers don't get released on bail. They don't get released without bail under our new bail law. The connection between the bail law and even the discovery law changes and the uptick in violent crime is an unestablished link, and I would say probably is not causal, because the kind of people that got let out without bail that previously would have had to provide bail are not the violent criminals. They are the petty criminals, the ones who we're not putting people on the street who couldn't raise $10,000 or $100,000 bail. We're letting people go who, if they had $1,000 that they could tap into, they could pay their bail. Too much for out of pocket, too little for a bail bond. So we changed that. And that there's no evidence that that's leading to more crime. The crime issue is, by the way, Paul, just devastating to me. I grew up in this town, and I consider it not just my right, but my obligation to walk down streets that other people think are scary. And it's a little nerve-wracking to walk down some of our streets right now, knowing that there is stray gun violence, that there's gun violence between people that have already, in Kingston, impacted unrelated people who were just in the way, people who were nearby. A child, in one instance, was murdered in Kingston because of violence between two people who knew each other and were trying to commit violence against each other, and this child was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And in this instance, that wrong place, I'm sorry to say, was their home.
Will you also support the presence of the police resource people in the schools?
I think that's up to the individual school. I support the decision of the school to do what they want. I will tell you that I represent close to a dozen school districts, and the decision in each school district has been a careful and thoughtful one. And in some instances, they want to have a uniform presence in the school. In some instances, they think that it contributes to an atmosphere they don't want to create in their school, and they would rather do something else. So I can think off the top of my head of New Paltz and under former Superintendent Maria Rice, who has since retired. They took their school resource officer money and they used it to create mental health counselors in the school system, and that proved to be just as valuable to them. So, listen, I don't miss my school board votes. I vote for people that run on the school boards because they are taking care of my kids during the day, and I want to make sure they do what's right. But once they're elected, I do trust them, and so that's their judgment to make.
Okay, many thanks for your, following through, and just, keep remembering that safety, if we can find better ways of just restoring safety in our streets, in our communities, because it is, people are starting to look over their shoulders to see if there's, a stranger or somebody who's coming up rapidly to get into a store. Are they going to the store with you, or are they going to mug you? And that, I mean, it's a horrible thing to have to check off in the minds of especially the elderly.
Can I tell you that my paranoia, and not accusing you of being paranoid, but my paranoia is very different. I just drove through the city of Albany the other day, and I'll be honest, full disclosure, I consistently have voted against these laws, whether they're in the city of New York, the city of Albany, the city of Buffalo, or last month statewide in the Department of Transportation, that replaces human beings with cameras to enforce the law. And I was at a red light in Albany, and it said, video camera enforced. And I was like, okay, we'll wait to see if I get a ticket for this one. I didn't do anything wrong, but I had a paranoia about it because my first experience going way, way back to the city of Chevy Chase was there was snow on the ground, and my car was across the stop line. And I got a ticket for being across a stop line that could not be seen because it was covered with snow. And you don't. There is no officer that's going to testify and say, "Oh yeah, it was snowing that day." There is no officer that's going to be able to say, "I'm going to give you a warning this time," as you were talking about earlier with the lights. It's automatic, and there basically is no defense. The argument that was made most recently with the Department of Transportation cameras, and I think there's going to be 30 in upstate, so watch out on work zones, is that, don't worry, it's only a $50 fine. Well, that's a lot of money. Yeah. And so that's where my paranoia is. I am really not worried about being in harm's way unexpectedly because of rampant violence in our community. There was not rampant violence in the community. There's been a rise in violence in our community, and we have to arrest that violence before it does become rampant and make sure that we continue to define our community as a friendly, law-abiding, pleasant place to live, and that's what we ought to be doing. So,
well, absolve yourself of guilt and just your paranoia. That's something you can work on, but guilt you don't have, so you're absolved from that.
But I'm Irish. I can't get over guilt.
Right.
Irish guilt is almost as bad as other ethnic guilt,
Take care. Have a great day.
Take care. So gentlemen, I didn't get a chance to talk about the vaccination statistics, but I would just remind everybody that we are seeing an uptick. In Ulster County, we broke 100 new cases recently. I think I wasn't able to blow up the map in the New York Times, but there are places where masks are being advised again whenever there is a substantial or a high level of risk of conveying the disease. And I will also tell people that not to advocate one way or the other. Do what you want; it's your body. But virtually no one is being hospitalized in a serious way who has been vaccinated with this disease. If you get the Delta variant, or now whatever the next one is called. Hope they pick a different airline to call it, because I'm flying Delta next week. Actually, JetBlue disease, right? If you get it and you're not vaccinated, your chances of being hospitalized are the number was enormous, like a staggering higher percentage. And if you communicate that disease to someone who is susceptible, then they couldn't get the vaccination, then they will be hospitalized. So I'm just going to suggest, without going through the bare statistics, that we should be vigilant. If we want this to end, we have to help it end.
Absolutely.
And so with that, that's about it for me. Lawrence, you got 8:59. You can do all.
We are all good. That is good timing. So thank you, Bill Squared, for filling in for Fred and Greg today. Kevin, thank you for the beautiful breakfast as always. And we will be back tomorrow, everyone, with Thunder Thursday. Have a great morning.